If you want comfort, go read a cookbook. If you want transformation, welcome to the Strange Sculpting Podcast. I'm Don Strange. We kill excuses, prioritize protein, and build discipline. Let's get to work.
Hey, welcome back to the Strange Sculpting Podcast. Today, do I have a treat for you? One of my favorite clients. She's been with me for, I bet, 10 years plus. We'll let her answer that in a minute. Been with me a long time. And she is the definition of discipline. She's an athlete. And she got everybody in her family's an athlete. They're all fit, a fit family. I think what's amazing too is whenever you're a mom or you're a dad and you live the brand, your offspring just does too. And that's what she lives. She's going to have a legacy. Whenever she goes on in 100 years, she'll probably have grandkids that got muscles. But before I introduce you to her, I'm going to show you where she was, and the story that she's got to tell you is going to blow your mind because of where she was, and then where she went, and where she is now. And really, it should be anybody that says I can't. If the I can't is in their lexicon, whenever you hear her story, you're gonna be like, yeah, I can. If she could do it, I could do it. Okay, so I'm gonna show you some pictures. Then you'll get to meet my one of my favorite clients, one of the most dedicated people I've ever met in my life. Here's her picture. She's on the right-hand side. Look how fit she was. This is like 10 years ago. And then here she is again. Oh, taking the crown. She's those little statues. She won some competitions. There she is again. Look at that, holding the grand prize. And then look at what happened. That's her a couple years ago. And so what you need to know about her on the right-hand side, once again, is she has a standard. And so this picture right here, this is not her standard. So a lot of people would be happy to look like that. That's not my guest today. I want you to welcome my guest, Allie Taylor. Allie.
Hi. Hi.
Is that, this is right here. Let's go back to this because whenever you see that, what do you think?
Gross.
Well,
I think it's pretty gross.
You didn't live up to your standard, but I want you to tell people what happened, because your story's not normal. Well, it might be normal for some people, but what happened? Why did you quit living your standard? Because you have a legitimate reason. Most people who eat Cheetos and Suzuki's don't have a reason.
Right.
I don't have ever a reason to get out of shape. I've hurt my shoulder a little bit recently, but still, I can still work through it. You had something else. So tell the people what happened to you, because I know the story. Go ahead.
Yeah. Right after moving from Texas to Florida, I was in the gym. My back had hurt on and off, but it's as all things, it's just kind of something that you deal with. And then on a Friday morning, I woke up and I couldn't walk more than 15 feet without excruciating pain, forcing me to like squat down. And turned out what I had done was compressed and ruptured 2 discs in my lumbar, my L4, L5, and my L5S1. And not only had I ruptured them, they had extruded. So, as my neurosurgeon said, the jelly was out of the donut. So, what happened then was some of that disc material broke off and moved up my spinal column just a little bit to sit between the vertebrae and my sciatic nerve. And I ended up with a drop foot. So I literally couldn't lift my toes on command, which I'd never even heard of a drop foot before. So that happened on a Friday. On a Monday, I went to a chiropractor. He did x-rays, sent me for an MRI. By Wednesday, I was finding a neurosurgeon. And by the following Monday, I was having emergency back surgery. So with that changed things quite a bit. And then about 8 months later, after recovering from that, which went beautifully, it went beautifully. My surgery couldn't have been more perfect. What they do when they do that kind of surgery is they have to remove the lamin, which is that little butterfly type shape on the side of your vertebrae. And when they do that, it causes an instability. Well, on the other side, I had what's called a pars defect, which is a naturally occurring fracture in that lamin. So I had this instability on one side, instability on the other side. And I ended up having to have a second surgery 8 months after the first one, where they put in titanium screws and did a spinal fusion. Um, I also had what's called spondylolisthesis, which is where the tailbone, if this is your spine and you should have like the nice curve, my tailbone was sitting too far, so it wasn't lining up properly. So they adjusted that and then put the screws in. And that surprisingly had far more effects afterwards, as far as discomfort, than the actual back surgery itself. Because anyone who lives up north, which I grew up north, if you slip and fall on the ice and bust your tailbone, you know that that's a pain that kind of lasts for a really long time. Well, that's what it felt like for about the first year after my surgery. So everything sat differently. Um, and they told me, I had some permanent restrictions in life, if I wanted to live the protocol that the neurosurgeon suggested, because in time, once you fuse those two levels together, then the level above it's going to take more abuse and movement, and that level is going to wear out faster, which the average is about 20 years. And when I had those surgeries, I was 44. So looking at least another couple of those surgeries in my lifetime, he told me that I couldn't lift more than 25 pounds or compress my spine with more than 25 pounds ever. And that I wasn't supposed to bend at the waist excessively. And I remember this very clearly. When I asked what excessively was, he said more than twice an hour. And I thought, the first thought in my head was, okay, so I can put one sock and one shoe on this hour, and then I can put one sock and one shoe on the next hour. And then I can, I've got to wait an hour. So I kind of lived by that for quite a while, doing the best that I could. And that takes a toll, especially a mental toll on somebody who's used to being incredibly active.
That is like, I know you hold together very well though. That is like devastating. I mean, you've actually just, women are typically way more emotional than men, and you hold it together very well. And you always have every call I have. You laugh it off. You're like, I'm going to be good. But most people have just accepted that fact because that's what happens.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't accept that.
No. And
you did at first. I remember talking to you. You're like, all I can do is this. And I was like, also, whenever, this is what people do. Whenever they see Ollie or they see somebody fit like you, they think like Wonder Woman, Superwoman, Superman. There's nothing ever as bad is going to happen to them. That's what people do in their mind with fit people. I know that because that's what I do with people like you and with people like me. Nah, they're good. Knowing how you live your life, how disciplined you are, how you do everything I say. And it's like, whenever I got the news, it's like, there's freaking no way this person's living the brand. And there's a lot of people do that. So whenever you see somebody fit, you don't know what they're going through, first of all.
Yeah.
But I think back, and I'm so proud of you that you did this. But what encouragement it is for somebody who's going through something, knowing that they can keep pushing through. They can go through. Maybe not believe the diagnosis you get. Maybe get a second opinion. And so, with you, why did you not accept what they said? What was in you screaming at you, saying, "Keep moving forward"? What was it? Because I remember talking to you, and then whenever you came back, how I remember having the conversation. We were because I'm not going to go against what the doctor says as much as I want to. I'm not going to. So you put me on strict protocol, what you couldn't and could not do, obviously. But it was very strict whenever we first started. But then I would accidentally put something in like I often do. And being in true Ollie Taylor fashion, you would just do it. And then I'd be looking at it and saying, why are you doing this? You said, Don, you put it in my program. And you challenge yourself. I remember that. But it was like, what was the switch that said, because most people had accepted and just moved on. Why didn't you? Why did you just say, I'm going, I'm going to do this. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life again. And I can't wait. Here in a minute, I'm going to show you what she actually look at her shoulders now. Look at what she looks like. You obviously say she's fit, but tell me that.
Well, I was, I went from being an incredibly active person, coaching group fitness, coaching kickboxing a couple times a day, 6 days a week, to moving here. And that was within the first couple months of moving to Florida, that I mean, I didn't even have like an urgent care that we went to, and I had to find a neurosurgeon. Um, so I went with what he said, but I never, my husband, Bill, was very concerned because a lot of people have very bad horror stories about these kinds of surgeries where they
Oh,
can't walk.
yes. Yeah.
They might never be able to walk again, things like that. And
Yeah.
those were real things that could happen. I mean, during my second surgery, the surgeon nicked the dural sac, which meant that I had to lay completely flat for like 48 hours and not move because spinal
Oh,
fluid was
Lord.
leaking out. And, and that was during COVID too. So that was what was really bad. It was June of 2020.
You held it together very well. I forgot these things. It's like, and I don't even remember if you told me these things. I'd be
Yeah.
like finding a small cliff to jump off, but you just said now and hold it together. I wouldn't do that. Obviously, I don't recommend doing that with anybody else.
Yeah,
But
it
the
was,
deal is that's taxing in the mind. You got a strong mind on you. Go ahead.
it was more mental. And then as you have to give yourself a ridiculous amount of grace like you never have before to heal from something like that, because it's not just like a tendonitis that'll go away in a couple of weeks. This is something that affected everything for the first 4 or 5 years after my surgery. Now we're at the 6 year mark, and the first few years I tried to go back in and work out and do things. And my back would bother me and I would have to then stop. And so it was constantly playing with it. And because of the changes in the S1 or the sacrum, it also affected my hips. So I started having hip issues that I'd never had
Yep.
before. And I went to an orthopedic and they gave me an injection. And I thankfully found someone who had come, he had come from a spinal practice. And he said, I told him about my restrictions. And he said, how do you feel about that? And I said, well, honestly, it sucks. I'm used to doing a lot more, and this is really hard. It's more mental than anything. And not to mention what it does to your self-confidence. My self-confidence was shot because I looked at myself and did not like what I saw. I knew what I had been just a couple years before, and to have gotten so soft and so fluffy and so weak. It was, it was a gut punch. It was really hard. And so I would keep going back to the gym here and there, trying to do things. And when I went to this orthopedic, they said, well, how fast do you think your body's going to wear out if you're not keeping it strong? And I said, at this rate, I mean, I feel like an 80-year-old. And he said, well, don't you think you need to be in the gym and getting strong? I said, well, I think so. But, the neurosurgeon said not to do these things. He goes, well, no, I think you need to keep everything as strong as possible. And that was my green light. And that's when you and I started back up about 2 years ago. And I was like, well, I got the green light, so we're going. And since then, I've taken some different protocols of things, and
Yeah.
but I've been so much stronger, so much stronger, so much happier, so much healthier. And like you said, I mean, it carries through our family very, very clearly. So that's nice. I just got a video yesterday of my son's squat PR. So I gotta love that.
Oh, what did he squat? Like, was it a Volkswagen or is it like a tank? Or is it, which one is it? Is it the son that
More like a
is
VW
it airplane?
bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Freaking studs, man. One's going to be a pilot and, one's going to be probably Mr. Olympia. Both
They're both working on both.
Trained them both. They're freaking amazing.
Yeah.
So that's whenever you realize, hey, I might come back from this, whenever you got the green light. But what's amazing is I always say in life, God can't steer a parked car. Whenever you start moving, then opportunities arise. A lot of people, you never stopped. I know that you were chomping at the bit, and it's amazing. Since I've trained you, your protocol and how you did things, how you even thought is developed, and now you developed this great physique. But I'm going to show you guys in a minute. I showed you this photo here. She's 123 pounds. Now I'm going to show you this one here. This on the right-hand page, right-hand side is what she looks like right now. The before pictures on this 123 pounds, both of those photos, 123 pounds. In fact, that other photo of the white is the same as 123 pounds. What a freaking difference. Look at that back on her. You get a lot of comments on that. So
yeah,
weight isn't everything. Weight's not the same. The body composition is everything. And so you can see the difference between these two. But how much more happy are you now than you were then?
Oh, I'm thrilled because it doesn't matter what clothes I put on, I feel good in them. And it even at times gets to be almost like I'll throw on a heavier, like a long sleeve shirt because people tend to gawk and make comments. So
Oh,
sometimes,
yeah.
you're going to the grocery store and you're like, I don't really feel like getting the eyeballs everywhere. So, but I'm very, very proud of what we've built, and it has been a we. You've worked alongside me, and we are on over 10 years now. Um,
Wow. It has
and
been that
helped.
long.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's put it this way, my boys, when we got started, were
Uh,
6 and 12. Now
yeah.
they're
I've,
16
I've
and
told you
22.
never to say that again. What did you
Well,
say? How old did you say they were again? How old did you say they were?
Jackson was 6 and Will would have been actually 11 when we
Oh
met.
my gosh.
But that made me 41 and now I'm 51. So,
Unfreaking believable. 51.
yeah.
That's the reason why people are gawking. I mean, obviously, you don't got your age, like a jersey on the back of you all the
Right.
time. But no matter what, I remember this conversation too we had. Ollie she's amazing, but no one at any age looks like her. It's a unicorn basically. Anytime you see anybody really fit, that's rare in the United States of America. 80% of the population is overweight, obese, or severely
Mm.
obese. You hear me say it all the time. You hear my podcast. But everybody's gawking. Everybody's gawking. Anybody's fit because it's rare. It doesn't have to be rare, and that's what's amazing. So we're just gonna ask you this question because
Mhm.
we've talked about you, and if you're dealing with anything, if you got a headache, I don't feel like going to the gym because I'm a headache. Look at her, man. She couldn't even freaking walk. She had drop foot, 17 surgeries, leaking spinal fluid everywhere. I had to lay down for 48 hours straight. I couldn't do that. Obviously, you had to do it. So
Mhm.
thank God I've not had to do that. But it's just that the resilience in your mind is amazing. But what do you think the biggest lie is that people get stuck? Get people. No, let me say that again. What do you think the biggest lie is that keeps people stuck? What do you think it is? You've been
That they
you.
don't believe in, they just don't believe in themselves. They don't believe it's possible for them. And it's possible for anyone. I mean, I didn't, I think we even had shirts that said I didn't wake up like this.
Yeah.
No, I didn't wake up like this. 3 years ago, I woke up looking like those pictures and it's disgusting. And I hated it. And when you make changes, you start going to the gym, you start logging your food, you start tracking your macros. And I can track everything every day. And I do because it's worth it when you start to see results and I am a huge, huge advocate of one more rep. That's progress. If I get one more rep, if I get one more pull up this week, that's better than last week. So I'm getting stronger. Um, and I'm all about progress. Excuse me.
Yeah.
So I think that the biggest lie that people tell themselves is that they can't do it because they're just so far gone. And you have to start somewhere. Everyone has to start somewhere.
Yep.
And you see people who've lost hundreds of pounds. They had to start somewhere. They are not a unicorn. I'm not a unicorn. I've just probably been doing it for longer. That's the difference. I one of my workout friends that I work out with weekly is 25 years old. And I oftentimes lift more weight than she does. And she complains. And then she goes, but I have to remember that you've been doing this like twice as long as I've been alive. And I'm like, yeah, it's just part of the deal. It's, you progress and get better the more you go. So even a bad workout is better than no workout. It's still adding up. You're putting those, your coins in your bucket and you're just building wealth and it's your physical health that's your wealth. So every time you go, you're adding coins to the bucket.
So you said the biggest lie is they don't think they can. That's the biggest
Right.
lie.
Yeah.
First of all, you said you're not a unicorn. You are a unicorn, not because your body, but because your mindset. That changes
Mm.
you. And so anybody can change your mindset. And that's what I want people to get out of this podcast. If Allie can do it and go through all the stuff she has, I love it because it motivates me. I always tell people I'm not going to compete, but it's a 1% of the competitors that keep me going. It's a 1% of the people who deal with the stuff that you deal with that makes me say, get your freaking lazy butt up and move. I always got six pack abs. Why don't you have that all the time? And that's the truth. And so those keep me motivated. I love talking to people like you because it keeps me going. It's like, okay, if she could do it, you could do it. You're not leaking spinal fluid. You never have. And so the biggest thing is you said they don't think they can. They don't think they can do it. Now, what's fascinating, I'm going to ask you this question too, because they don't. I train people all the time. I'm just getting your brain, see what you think about this. But I always find it fascinating. The same people who say they can't, whenever I tell them that they can, and then whenever they start, they don't get results in a week, they give up. What's the, what, I know you're not a psychologist. You're just, you work out, you're smart. Why do you think they stop? What is it? They obviously, I guess they despise small beginnings, but what do you think? This is just, that's a harder question. What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, they didn't get to where they are in a week, so they're not going to get out of where they are in a week. But they lack the faith in themselves, and that's that self-confidence that they can overcome it. They might have gutted up the courage to start, but then they still don't have enough self-confidence and faith in the program, perhaps, or themselves to continue on. But no matter what, it takes, pardon me, it takes 3 weeks to make or break a habit. So, give yourself at least 21 days. If you're not starting to feel something, if you're not starting to feel at least stronger or at least more comfortable in the gym. I mean, I've had people come into the gym that have never been in the gym before. And I had a friend from work go with me and she said, "Oh my God, look at all those people over there." And I said, "Don't worry, all those people over there are looking at themselves in the mirror. They don't even know you're here." And about 10 minutes later, we were over there in the mix of all the cables and everything. And I said, "Are you okay now?" She goes, "Yeah, you're right. They're not interested in me being here." I'm like, exactly. You're here for you. They're there for them. Don't worry about it. So she had gotten more comfortable. And it's, you have to take those small wins. I think people also don't recognize small wins. Like they want it all.
100%. Yes.
They want it all. And I want a bigger back. Even though that picture looks great, I want a bigger back. And it's going to take me a couple of years to get there to where if I decide to step on stage, I'm only doing it because I plan to be there and walk away, first place. I don't want to just go compete. I want to win. So in order to get there, I have to work and build towards it. And I have to take those small wins. I have to take that one extra pull up or, the 5 extra pounds I was able to load on. And, I did fewer reps, but it was at a higher weight. So it's all about that progress. And I'm a huge, I can celebrate my small victories. I'll tell you what, if I hit my macros dead on the money, like dead on the money with calories, dead on the money with my protein, I want to post it and share it with everybody because it's like that's a huge win.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That doesn't happen.
But
so
that tells you something too, though, because you're thinking macro, not micro. You don't hit it every day, but you hit close, and obviously your body shows that you do. But hitting it perfect, we're not looking for perfection. We're just looking for consistently doing the right thing.
That's why if you do, it's like celebrate, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. People, the small wins are you celebrate. You should, every time you do your macros, you should have a parade. Everybody should have a parade in your honor. If you continue doing that, you're gonna look like you're gonna look like you want to look like. Everybody doesn't want to look like you. Yeah, I get you. I'm sure you get told that all the time. I don't want you're a little bit too big. I want to be a little bigger. I love that, by the way. I get that all the time. I have 6-pack calves rolling around on the beach, and somebody'd say, "You look great, but I just want just a little bigger biceps." Good luck. You know what I'm saying? Good luck.
Right.
I've been doing this 20 years. Now you said, this is what's funny though. You said, you got to celebrate the small victories. And I had a client one time. I think this, if you're just starting to have a goal, have an idea, at least have an idea of where you want to go, because you might achieve great success and then not even realize it because you didn't have that as your goal. One of my first clients I ever had, her name was Jackie Moran. Oh, Jackie, she was hilarious. Whenever I trained one-on-one, which was many moons again, I would never do it again. It was like a dog life. It was awful, man. 1 year of training one-on-one's like 7 years, literally, because of all the emotional. Because I literally, Allie, this is what I thought. I mean, whenever my trainer, I hired a trainer, it's the best money I ever spent. $10,000 I spent with this guy over a year. He trained me 3, 4, or 5 times a week. I was with him, and I learned so much good stuff from him. But I learned consistency, and the guy wouldn't let me eat anything I liked. If I liked it, he said, you can't have it. That was basically our relationship. It was crazy, but it got me in great shape. Made me extremely disciplined. And I thought whenever I became a trainer, foolishly, I thought everybody that I trained would be just as dedicated as I was. What I learned was, no, people buy friends. It's like, I'm training all these people. They don't do a quarter of what I said. I remember I actually hired a culinary graduate to make all my meal plans for me because I couldn't think past. I would have somebody in a food consultation, Allie, and they come in my sit across the table from me, and I would say across the desk from me, and I'd say, okay, for breakfast, I'm making their food for them, Allie, and I say, for breakfast, how about we do egg whites and grapefruit? Good luck, right? So this is me at 25 years old. How about egg whites and grapefruit? And they'd be like, I don't really like it, but I said, just hold on with me because I'm going to give you something for dinner that's going to make it all worthwhile. And then they'd be like, I really don't like that, but I'm just trying to train them the way that I was trained, but I give them a little bit more. I give, hey, you got a Christmas present coming for dinner. I promise you, just hold on with me. So I'd say for a snack, how about we do a protein shake? I hate protein shakes. Okay, I know you hate protein shakes, but just wait for dinner because I'm going to surprise you for dinner. And then we get to dinner and they had a whole bunch of food they didn't like. And I said, okay, for dinner, you get spaghetti. And they'd say, I hate spaghetti. And I say, you're worthless. Get out of my freaking office. You are worthless. Because that's all I knew. So I actually hired a culinary student to work with me. And I'd say, this is what I want. These are the macros you make in the meal plan because I can't think past spaghetti. And if somebody can't eat spaghetti, I'm like, get out of my, you're a lazy, useless person. And so that's not the truth, but that's what I don't know. I don't know how to make food taste good. I remember when I first met my wife, like 15, 20 years ago or whatever. I went up to her house and she said, I'd make chicken and I wouldn't even put salt and pepper on it. It's just chicken by itself. Because my trainer told me, he said, would you put salt on that? I said, yes, sir. He said, did I tell you could put salt on it? I said, no. He said, you don't add salt until you can't hack it without the salt. I said, and that's what I did because I got a small brain. I apologize. Anyway, but Jackie, back to Jackie. I'm going to circle back around and start finish the story I started. Jackie Moran came in my office and I trained her for a year and she lost 100 pounds. And after 100 pounds, and we didn't set a goal, but 100-pound fat loss, completely different person because it's the same thought process I had now as far as protein first. We made sure the macronutrients were perfect as far as her food plan. Obviously, the culinary graduate was working with her meal plan to give her something she liked. But after a year, she came in and she was a drama-filled person. Anyway, I really liked Jackie, but she was 100% drama. She came in my office. She said, look at me. I look exactly the same. I said, Allie, what are you talking about? She said, I haven't got any results. I said, you've lost almost 100 pounds. I think it might have been 75, whatever. It was a lot of weight. I said, you've lost like 75, almost 100 pounds, Jackie. And she said, I just haven't got any results. I said, are you kidding me? Because she didn't set out with a goal. She didn't say, so whenever she hit a target that was amazing, because she didn't have it, she didn't appreciate it. Anyway, so I'm telling you, if you don't have a goal, set a goal. That way whenever you reach a destination that's more positive than you are right now, you will set a small goal. You don't set a big goal like her. She gets a whole Allie's telling you the key to success. She celebrates it whenever she hits her macros, and look at her body. You celebrate those small victories over and over again. And I promise you'll like the end result of what you get. Okay, Allie, you got anything to add to that or you want some more questions?
Fire away.
Okay. Since we're about 30 minutes, we're going to wrap it up pretty quickly because I think they got enough motivation from you. If you need inspiration, motivation, I think Ali did it. If you didn't get motivation, inspiration, you're a loser. That's all I can say. Okay. Discipline or motivation? Discipline or motivation? Which one?
Oh, discipline.
Why? Why discipline, Ali?
Discipline will carry you through every day. Every day you're not motivated, but if you're disciplined, you'll do it. Sorry, the dog is attacking my cord.
I love your dog. Show your dog to the people if you can.
Oh my God. Come here.
The dog, if you can't lift that dog, don't lift over 25 pounds. I love dogs. That is, my wife will watch this podcast just to see that. That's a good looking dog right there.
He's a baby.
His legs are like 4 inches long.
If that. If that.
That dog is that. I love those dogs.
Yeah, so he's been biting my hands. So I apologize. He's been biting my hands and just pulled the cord out of the wall. So
No, that's okay. His dog's hilarious.
But
You
no,
just can't help but look at that dog and laugh. That dog's
every
hilarious.
day, nonstop.
That's what I do. I laugh at my dog, and that dog I got a golden doodle. Yeah, I said that. I'm a man, but I got a golden doodle. He looks like a big stuffed animal, and I laugh all the time, but that dog's even funnier. That dog is hysterical.
He's a
Oh,
tank.
my God. How
And
much
he's not
does he
getting-
weigh?
He's only 45 pounds.
Okay, only 45 pounds. He's literally 12 inches tall. So whenever you say only 45 pounds, that's you're carrying a bowling ball. The only difference is there's not 3 holes in the top of him to bowl him.
Nope, I know. He's a big guy.
That's hilarious.
So maybe he'll sit now that he can sit with me.
Okay. So
Yeah,
discipline over motivation. That's what you said. You got anything more to add to that?
Well, so you know this about me, that I'm a person who is very regimented, which is just another word for discipline. And whether you feel like it or not, you'll feel better once you go.
Oh, 100%.
You'll never regret a workout that you did. You'll always regret the workout that you skipped, period.
Yeah.
But I'm also not somebody who is unforgiving about, you may go in and you just are not feeling it. You're tired, you're worn out.
Exactly.
But you do 5 of the 7 exercises on your plan. Okay. That's okay.
exactly.
You're going to have days like that. You decided you needed and absolutely had to have a Big Mac and fries today. Okay. Big deal. Yes,
Absolutely.
it's going to throw your macros off. Just go back to eating what you were supposed to eat for the rest of the day. That's where a lot of people, throw the baby out with the bathwater. And I've never done that. Like if I go off the rails for a meal and, go and have lunch with the girls and drinks or whatever, but then I go back to everything I was supposed to do the rest of the day.
That is so good. Keep talking. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I still want to hit my protein for the day. I still want to try and keep it as close to as possible. My calories, but sometimes I'm going to blow them out. It happens because I'm human, but discipline will get you back, because what will happen is if you're only working with motivation, you're only going to do it the days you feel like it.
Yep.
Motivation is not something that's going to carry you through. Discipline is.
Yep.
So.
And actually what's amazing too, is if you're motivated, you're always going to look at external source to motivate you. And then you're going to have 74 trainers. The reason why you're been with me for 10 years, because I didn't motivate you. You'd hear an inspirational story from me and I would encourage you, but I didn't motivate you. You motivated yourself. That's how you disciplined yourself. That's the reason why we're friends. And that's the reason why I'm still coaching you, because you didn't look for me for something you knew you had to get on your own. So I'm very happy about that.
Yeah. I needed to know what to do when I got there to get the results that I want. And we talk about that, every 2 weeks when we talk, like, how's it going? When it's time to build a new plan, what am I trying to get to next? What am I trying to work on? And, you write it up and I go and I do it. And, another 6 weeks goes by and we look at it again and decide what needs to be tweaked from there and what I want to continue to work on. So, you can't necessarily spot train everything, but over time you can certainly focus on things and make great impact. So.
You said one thing too, earlier. You said that you forgave yourself quickly and then you moved on. That's a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people, whenever they have, I did that for years based upon how my trainer taught me, as far as this dedication, is so disciplined. I couldn't live that brand because I hate tuna and he'd make me eat it. And then it had this false idea of what I needed to do to get what I want. It was great. It was still the best money I ever spent because I learned discipline majorly. And I realized I could do anything If I can get my body in check, I can literally do anything. But
Mhm.
bottom line was, at the end of the day, whenever I'd break, it would be breaking. And then his voice is in my head, boy, you messed up. I remember, I'll tell you this story. I went to spring break when I was 24 years old, and I was ripped, man, shredded. I was going to do a competition. Instead, I decided, no, I'm going to go to spring break. That's a better use of my time. So I went to spring break, and he
Right.
did my body fat before I left, and I was like 5% body fat, which I wasn't, by the way. And he told me that. He said, boy, you ain't 5%. I said, well, you're the one that told me that. I didn't do it. And then it was like 180 pounds, 5% body fat, 100,
Mhm.
whatever, 160 pounds, 168 pounds of muscle mass. He did all the numbers. I left, came back,
Mhm.
and I had a bad week. Obviously, it's spring break. Drank too
Right.
much, did all kinds of stupid. Thank God for the grace of my youth. But
Mhm.
then I got back. He did my body fat again, and he said, "Look at this boy. You gained 4 pounds of fat and lost 6 pounds of muscle, something like that." It was like devastating to me because
Mhm.
I thought I threw away a year of work. And so,
Mhm.
but I look in the mirror and it doesn't say that, but the
Mhm.
numbers say that. And so I learned, first of all, body fat percentages, as far whatever you're doing, you better look in the mirror more. It's an okay gauge, but understand
Right.
it's not perfect science. Even though it spits out a perfect number, we've had this discussion a million times. I don't mind
Yeah.
people using it, but you got to be smart on the gauge you're using, because the gauge you're using isn't always accurate. A better
Right.
test is the measurements. A better test overall is measurements and what you look like, but you can use any metric you want. But it was devastating to me, and that mentality was stuck with me for a long time. It's like, whenever I fail, I'm over. I may as well just quit. But I didn't
Right.
quit. I was always
Right.
legitimately, but it would also derail me. Well, a cheat day meal would end up to be a cheat weekend, and
Exactly.
I don't have my transformation. Oh yeah, I do right here, and it put me right here. That was me as a
Mhm.
trainer on the left hand side. I was a trainer, had all the not the knowledge I have right now, but I was 38 years old. And that's crazy because of
Mhm.
that mentality, that perfection mentality. If I'm not doing it 100% perfectly all the time, I may as well not do it at all. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Nobody's perfect. Jesus is perfect. And what did they do to him? Right. So I'm trying to not be like him, Anyway, just kidding. Maybe. Anyway, so last question. What question do I want to ask? Let me look through my list of 75 questions I got that we got through like 4 of them.
Right.
Okay. I think this is a good one. Man, there's so many here. Oh man, there's maybe 2 more.
Okay.
What's one thing? Because my tagline, which you don't even know, which is funny because I'm not the best marketer in the world. My tagline is fitness simplified. I try to simplify everything, and you with me, you know that. I try to how much it's. I always bring down to the brass tacks. It's like first principles.
Mhm.
That's one thing you know about me, even if you didn't know the tagline. God gave me the ability to use crayons, and that's it. So the bottom line is I have to make things simple, and I do for my
Mhm.
clients. But what one thing do people make way more complicated than it needs to be? One thing. That's a good question.
It is a good question, and it's not a simple question. But honestly, I think that people stay away from like tracking their food, tracking their macros, and looking at that, they go, "Oh, that's for those people at the gym, not for just the common person." And really, I mean, my mother is going to be 78 years old this year. And I would love more than anything for her to track her protein and her calories for a day because, she's of an age where she still needs to make sure that her muscle is there and it's really important at her age. Um, but people look at that and they complicate it. And it doesn't need to be complicated. It's very simple. MyFitnessPal is free. You can track everything. And as you and I have talked about, most people eat the same stuff between 8 and 12 different meals in a 30-day period of time. All you're doing is changing whether you had 5 ounces, and that's something a $10 scale from Walmart will tell you. I have the
Mhm.
same one that I've had for 10 years. It's gone through lots of batteries over the years, but $10 well spent. And you just plug it in. It's plug and play. And to me, it
Mhm.
becomes kind of a game. Back during the shows, the first shows that I did in 2016, you and I weren't doing a meal plan. We were just doing macros. And I can remember sitting in my pantry on a step stool with my MyFitnessPal, planning my food for the next day, trying to hit the macros exactly. And I remember one night I had not done a very good job. And the only way I could hit my macros for the night was to eat 11 pieces of turkey bacon at like 9 o'clock at night. So I did, because that's how I hit my macros.
Yeah, that's
Because
awesome.
to me, that's part of the game, is like,
Yeah.
if I do it, I'm fueling my body for success and for what I want it to become. I'm not eating for what I am, I'm eating for what I want it to become. So, and don't get me wrong, I eat protein ice cream every night with a protein bar crunched up on top every single night. So everybody that says, "Oh, I love
Say
ice
that
cream,"
again. Say that
me
again.
too.
Say it again.
I
I want to hear it one more time.
I eat protein ice cream every night, only since I got my Ninja Creamy. Before that, I just ate Bluebell ice cream every night, and I crunch up a like a salted caramel protein bar on top, and that's my treat every night. And guess what? When I log my morning shake in my Fitness Pal, I log my ice cream at night because I know I'm going to have it, and then I fit the rest of my day in between.
That's smart. You said something that every competitor trainer is going to be like, seriously, she had turkey bacon. You're a lousy
Oh,
personal trainer. First of all, I'll tell you this: coaches who want to,
that was
I feel
10
like
years
I need.
ago.
I feel like this. Though. I feel like every competitor coach is judging me. I don't make things extra difficult just to make them difficult. I think a lot of coaches, they make things way too difficult. I am very brass tacks. This is what you. These are the main things. The main things. And if you do the main things, we can intricately change it. Obviously, if I was making your meal plan at the time, I would never give you turkey bacon. That being said, you look great. And so I don't care. But every competitor coach, I had people do spaghetti all the way up until the show. And guess what? They won. And
Yeah.
so anyway, it's just if your body does this is what I'd say, anybody getting ready for a show, I would probably look at the food you're eating. If your body's not changing, obviously change it up. But then also pre-show, clean up your diet and then add food and see how your body responds. Anyway, one more question. This one might be hard for you, but I'm gonna ask it for you anyway. If you could put one sentence on a billboard for the whole world to see, what would that sentence say?
Yikes.
I hope it says something like strange sculpting. That's what I'm hoping for. But I have a thing it might not.
Oh boy, one sentence. As cheesy as it sounds, believe in yourself. People just don't. They don't think things are possible for themselves, and it's only because they lack the discipline to chase the dream, whatever it may be.
So
So,
that's it.
if yeah, it sounds really lame, and it is really simple, but I work with so many people over the years in different environments, especially like a school environment, um, where there are a lot of people that don't have that didn't have the same kind
Yeah.
of drive that I did, nor did they know where I came from previously. Like that was, a different lifetime ago. So they're seeing where I'm at now, and they're really blown away by it. But there's no reason each and every one of them couldn't also have that version of themselves, the best version of themselves that they could, other than the fact that they don't think it's possible for them. So, I just, and a lot of them were all the same age as me. So, or really close to it. So I see that and go, why can't you go and do that? Why can't you go in and get stronger? Why see, this like a self-confidence. And as you know, like my youngest, went through an insane transformation.
Oh yeah.
Um, just mind-boggling transformation over the last 2.5 years, and the confidence that came with that has set him on a completely different path for life. And I feel like a lot of people, especially in their 40s 50s, they're not feeling great about themselves. This is when those health things really start to kick in, because they haven't taken care of themselves, and now's the ideal time to get after it
That's
and
right.
do something about it, because it's not going to get easier for the next, however many years.
Yeah.
So you may as well get on top of it right now and make sure that you're being proactive towards that.
So believe in yourself. That's your final thing. I'm going to add to that. It's amazing because I listened to a lot of motivational people over the years. One of the guys I used to listen to was Zig Ziglar. What a name, by the way. That's not his real name.
Yeah.
I forgot his real name, but Zig Ziglar was, and I used to listen to him all the time because whenever you go through some stuff, you want somebody putting that belief back in you. And so I don't really like motivation. I like discipline better. But you show me your 5 closest friends, I'll show you your future. Well, I didn't have 5 positive friends. And so I'd listen to positive things all the time to get my mind back where it was. But one thing he said, you know where the world's most potential is? In the graveyard. Most people they die with the music still in them. And that's what you're saying. Believe in yourself because you're far more capable of doing something than what you think you are. That's 100% true. And then also another quote that I was thinking where you said that is believe in yourself. Henry Ford said this. Henry Ford was like the Elon Musk of the 1900s. And he said, if you believe you can, or if you believe you can't, you're right either way.
You're right.
Anyway, so you got a lot of wisdom in that brain of yours for a young lady. I'll tell you that right now. But I appreciate you so much for being on the podcast today. If you guys liked it, please share it. Share it with people. That's going to help people. And you should share it because, my gosh, this is a great testimonial, not for me, but for what you can achieve if you put your mind to it. Also, in the show notes below, I'll give you Ali's Instagram. You can get this shirt, Fitness Brings Freedom, part of my America's 250th anniversary series. It has some cool t-shirts out there. Ali, you want to add anything else before we sign off?
No, I'm all good.
Hey, if you're looking for a trainer, I'm all yours. Just contact me, add a comment below, or go to my website, strangesculpting.com. The show notes are below. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Stop thinking and start doing. Information without execution is just entertainment. You have the truth. Now go do the work. Your body isn't lazy. Your excuses are. Get the tools you need at strangesculpting.com.